Hello again. On August the 21st last year, nurse Lucy Letby was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of ever being freed on parole for the murder of 7 babies at the hospital where she worked. Having followed the case closely, I was dubious about the way that the evidence had been presented and released a video that same day in which I outlined the reasons for treating the conviction with a certain amount of caution. In the description to this video, I give a link to that video. This was very ill received because most people had convinced themselves that Letby was the most wicked woman since Myra Hindley. The fact that she looked so fresh-faced and innocent served only to make her guilt all the more horrifying for many people. Sometimes the British public gets like this. It's a form of mass hysteria in which everybody agrees on a villain, and then they all show that they are right-thinking folk by denouncing the person in the fiercest possible terms. I expected that expressing doubt about the conviction would make people look at me askance, and so it proved. It didn't worry me unduly. I've never really been one for popularity contests. The more that came out after the conviction, the clearer it seemed to me that something was amiss, and I was surprised that she was refused leave to appeal. When Lucy Letby was tried recently for one of the attempted murders about which the first jury had been unable to agree, the problems with the evidence seemed to me so glaringly obvious that I couldn't understand how anybody could fail to see what was wrong. She was convicted, though. I must confess that I was beginning by this time to wonder if it was just me. So I was being a bit of a crank and simply failing to see what was so clear to other people. It seems not. Yesterday, The Guardian carried a long piece in which various experts questioned the case against Letby, and today the Daily Telegraph is doing the same thing. This isn't just a biased campaign by the left or the right. Both left and right newspapers are really seriously showing concern about this. Both newspapers make precisely the same point which I've been drawing attention to over the last year, which is, I dare say, purely coincidental. The Guardian piece carries headlines reading, Lucy Letby, killer or coincidence? Why some experts question the evidence. Exclusive. Doubts raised over safety of convictions of nurse found guilty of murdering babies. In the Daily Telegraph, the headline is Lucy Letby, serial killer or miscarriage of justice? Experts question evidence after former nurse found guilty of cynical campaign of child murder. There are interviews with various people from the Royal Statistical Society, mathematicians from Harvard and Oxford and so on, all of whom, by the way, know far more about statistics and this sort of thing than I ever will, and all of whom denounced the way that the evidence was presented in the case against Letby, making those very points that I made a year ago. In my video last August, I went into details about the case of the Dutch paediatric nurse Lucia de Burke, who was also convicted of murdering 7 patients, later freed after a successful appeal. I give a link to both the articles from The Guardian and The Telegraph, and also the Wikipedia page about Lucia de Burke in the description to this video. What I find alarming about all this is that the flaws in the case were, to me at any rate, very clear from the beginning, but such was the wave of anger and disgust about those dead babies that nobody else seemed able to see it. Babies were dead, and somebody must be to blame for the deaths. I'm glad that newspapers are finally waking up to what may well prove to be one of the worst miscarriages of justice which this country has ever seen, but that it has taken a year for journalists to spot what was blindingly obvious to me before the verdict was even delivered is slightly shocking. The piece in The Guardian may well be headed exclusive, but followers of this channel will have seen all the information contained in that piece a year ago. No wonder some people say that they rely upon this channel more than they do the mainstream media.